It is so good to be here. It's good to be in Australia. It's been a dream of mine to come to Australia, starting when I was about 15. And I arrived on Tuesday morning at 4 a.m., and within a couple hours, I wasn't sure if I was going to make it. The reason why, I went for a really long walk, about 6 miles, which I think is like 7.2 kilometers or something. And I went to a little cafe, and I walk in there, and I'm bleary-eyed just from getting off the plane. And the barista comes and says, "Hey, what would you like to drink?" And I say, I'd love an Americano. Yeah. So she stares back at me and says, "No." Well, what do you have? I mean, Americano is pretty easy to make. You put 2 shots of espresso in, and then you put some water on top. Can you do that? No. Like, well, what could you make me that's something similar? She's like, well, I can make you a long black. I'm like, sure, I'll take that. So I was like, well, how do you make this drink? And she's like, well, you put water in, and then you put 2 shots of espresso in. Well, you gotta be kidding me. I mean, this is not really difficult. So that was my first experience with my first day here, and it seems like I'm in the coffee capital of the world or something, which just suits me just fine. And it was actually pretty good. So the real reason why I had coming to Australia on my bucket list starting around 15 is that I found out that my family is from New South Wales, Lismore. And we knew that we had this family history of the circus. And that takes me to my ancestry. And this is Con Colino, who was a circus performer in the 1920s and 1930s. And he and the family had a vision. And that vision was to become the best entertainers in the world. Except they had a little bit of a problem. They were half Irish and half indigenous. And so what they did was they sat down and said, well, what vision could we create that would set us up for success? And so they became Spanish. And so all up until I was 15, I believed that I was of Spanish descent, and I had these ancestors that dressed up as bullfighters, and they did all kinds of different high wire acts. Con Colino and 5 of my other family members are in the Circus Hall of Fame. They're at the Adelaide Film Festival in October. They're releasing something called The Colino Heart. And that documentary is about my family. So check it out, coming out in October. And so they had this vision. They had a little bit of an obstacle that they had to overcome. And they created this path forward. They created a strategy that would set them up for success. And Con Colino there, he became the highest paid entertainer in the world in that time, in the 1930s. He made more money than Hollywood stars or anyone else, and so something worked. The other thing interesting about Con and the family is that because they were Spanish royalty, they had Reich Pass all throughout Hitler's Germany. And so they were able to freely travel, and so their vision, their identity, was really a matter of life or death. And so they had this vision, but they had to practice. He practiced 7 days a week for at least 7 hours per day. And growing up, I had all these older aunts and uncles, and they're highly, highly disciplined. They were very, very talented at pretty much everything that they did, but they had to practice. It had to be put into motion. Otherwise, a matter of life or death. And so you have these 2 dichotomies, if you will. You have, without vision, the people perish. And for them, that was real. Now, on the other hand, you have Gino's statement of vision without traction is merely hallucination. And so you have to have that big vision. You have to understand where you're going, and you have to have the discipline in order to get to where you want to go. You have to have traction. And so what I'm going to do is I'm assuming that everybody understands, or at least some of you understand, what the VTO is. How many of you have seen a VTO before? So most of you. And the few that just kind of rolled in and you don't know what a VTO is, I'm going to go through that now, just at a high level. So it's a 2-page vision and plan. And we answer the 8 questions of the VTO. Starting with, what are your core values? Your core values determine your culture. There are 3 to 7 guiding principles. And you use these to hire, fire, review, reward, and recognize all of your people around this simple set of guiding principles. It's that is what builds your culture with intent. You have to be very disciplined around this. And Kelly's going to talk about what that looks like later as the closing keynote. Next, what is your core focus? So with our core focus, we're talking about your purpose, your cause, your passion, your why, what lights you up, and then your niche or niche, I've been told. But you know what? I have to say that you can't say there's riches in the niches if you call it a niche. It just doesn't work. It doesn't sound as good. Still niche, I guess. So with that, you're determining what this is, and this is your filtering and guiding mechanism for making really great decisions as an organization, keeping you laser focused versus distracted by shiny stuff. Next, what is your 10-year target? 5 to 30 years out, your big, hairy, audacious goal. Because with your core values, that is who you are. Your core focus is what you are. And your 10-year target is where you are going as an organization. So we have to get together as a leadership team and answer these questions. Next, what is your marketing strategy? What is the psychographic, demographic, geographic of your ideal customer? Then what are your 3 uniques, the 3 things that when taken in combination eliminates all of your competition? What is your proven process? And then what is your guarantee? And so we're answering these questions of the VTO, getting your leadership team to answer these. Then we break that down to the ground just a little bit with our 3-year picture. So we set revenue and profit, a measurable or 2 or 3, and then 5 to 15 bullet points that describe the business, walk the halls of the organization. Next, what is your 1-year plan? You take that 3-year picture, it sets you up for really great 1-year planning. Revenue, profit, measurables, 3 to 7 goals for the year, less is more. And then what are your quarterly rocks? Taking that 1-year plan, breaking it down into 90-day rocks, 3 to 7, same thing, revenue, profit, and measurables. And then finally, what is your issues list? The obstacles, the barriers, the ideas, the opportunities. We've defined issues a little bit different than the rest of the world. Most people think issues and you feel sort of taken down, but it's really just anything that is unresolved. So from there, we're done, right? We've answered the 8 questions, we're good to go. Well, as Gino says in this quote, the more clearly everyone can see your vision, the likely you are to achieve it. Focus everyone's energy toward one thing and amazing results will follow. And so we've answered these 8 questions, that's step 1. And step 2 is shared by all, getting the answers to those 8 questions shared by everyone in your organization. So if you have 50 out of 50 people, if you have 50 people in your organization, you should be able to ask anyone in that and they should be able to answer in complete unison the answers to these 8 questions, top to bottom, without fail. So going back to my family story here, the Colino vision, and their name wasn't Colino, by the way, that was all just made up. It was Sullivan and O'Donnell. So they started to share this vision. It became a family affair. And on the far left there is my grandfather, he became 7 times the greatest juggler in the world. He performed for the Queen of England. My grandmother joined the act. She was 3rd in from the end there. She joined, and they were married at center stage, Madison Square Garden, during a Ringling Brothers and Barnum and Bailey circus performance. And so this vision just started getting carried forward. Everyone was swimming in the same direction, rowing in the same direction. And so to do that, as a reminder, in order to get that vision shared by all 50 out of 50 of your employees, you simply got to tell them. And we tell them by a state of the company. So every single quarter, you're standing up in front of your team. Kelly Knight, my integrator here at EOS Worldwide, we did this yesterday with the APAC EOS implementer community. We went through this live time. Usually they get a video, but every single quarter, and I've done this along with Kelly over the last 5 years, where we're talking about where we've been, where we are, and where we're going. Every single quarter. And I want to emphasize that this is just so very important, because if you're a visionary and you do the state of the company for the first time, don't expect all your people to be like, oh yeah, let's go do this now. It just doesn't work that way. Because especially as a visionary, you do it once, they're waiting for you to just forget about it next quarter. And then they're totally surprised if you do it 2 quarters in a row, and they're just completely shocked if you do it 3 times, but they still don't believe you. It's really 7 times to hear it for the first time. There's been quite a few studies around this that over the age of 35, it's actually about 23 times before we hear it for the first time. So you've got a lot of quarters to go if you're just starting out here. So you just got to tell them over and over and over again, and eventually they believe you. So that's vision shared by all. And so that's what 100% strong looks like in that vision component. Really simple, answering the 8 questions, getting 100% on the same page with your leadership team, and then getting that shared by everyone in the organization. It is hard work, but that's not enough. So I have the privilege, the honor to see hundreds and hundreds, thousands of VTOs. Believe it or not, on LinkedIn, clients will just send me their VTOs. They're working with an implementer or they're self-implementing. They go on LinkedIn and they feel the need to send their VTO to me. So I see a lot of them. And I will tell you that the level of rigor and discipline isn't quite there. They're not really taking their VTO to the next level. And so what I hope to do today in this talk is take you one step further in the way you're answering those 8 questions. Because EOS at its root, at its core, is a system for managing human energy. Getting all the arrows pointed in a singular direction, all the human energy. If you got 50 out of 50 people, everyone's seeing the same thing, wanting the same thing, and they're executing together. The issue is, what if where you're going isn't really that great? What if you arrive and it's competitive, you can't make a profit, it's too crowded, you just can't win? So we got to make sure that our VTO is taking us to a place that we actually want to be. And so that's where we're going to go through each question, each of the 8 questions of the VTO, and push you to go just a little bit deeper. And we say these words, if you're working with an implementer, you've heard them 1,000 times, well, we just want to make sure that you're going a little bit deeper. So that's what we're going to do. So, too much coffee. I tried to get an Americano. Actually, someone tried to hand me an Americano, and no one would make it for him. So back in 2017, at the EOS conference in Atlanta, Georgia, someone from the crowd asked Gino, hey, where's the strategy in EOS? And his answer was, we don't do strategy. And he stopped for a little bit, and he was like, well, some implementers do strategy, and some don't. Okay, so that was curious to me. So I went on a search. I read all the books you could possibly read on strategy. I already had my MBA. I ended up going to Wharton Business School, spent 2 years there in search of, okay, what is strategy? So after all that time, all that research, I came up with one sentence. And that is simply, strategy is making a decision, deciding what you will do and what you won't do that creates a competitive advantage. And so that got me thinking, because if you take 10 people and you say, hey, define strategy for me, you will get 10 different answers. No one can really hit the nail on the head of what it is. So I'm making my feeble attempt here for one sentence. It's the EOS way. You got to simplify, right? The 20% that produces 80%. So if we hold that as the definition, where can we find the strategy in our VTO? So that's what we're going to do now. So if we think about our core values, when we're going through the exercise of creating those core values, we talk about 3 core values traps. We talk about core values traps that are accidental. They exist within the organization, but they exist here without leadership or managerial intent. We talk about aspirational core values. We say, hey, we wish we were this, but if we're telling the truth, we're not. And then we talk about permission to play, and we use these words. A permission to play core value, which you're supposed to be filtering out, is non-differentiating you and everyone else. So this is integrity, honesty, trust, all these different things that mean nothing really, but they're permission to play. They're the minimum standard for participation in your organization. So we're filtering, as we create these VTOs and you look at your core values, you should be asking yourself, does this create a culture that gives us a competitive advantage? We hear often about, you might be in a commoditized market, okay? So maybe you have 3 or 4 competitors here, and we're having a conversation this morning about this in the lobby in the hotel, is, okay, you're in this competitive environment, but if your culture is differentiated, it is unique, you become an attraction model. You have an attraction model for all the people to come, the best people to work for you. So this is creating a competitive advantage for you where you show up in the marketplace completely and utterly unique. And that's what strategy is about creating that uniqueness. So as in your handouts there, you have a sheet with a bunch of questions. So I'm not going to go through all of those questions in this talk, but I just want to get your brains turning to say, hey, are our core values differentiated? What's our competition's core values? How are we different? Are we really different? And chances are you are, but I want you to just look at your core values, pour into them, and really truly understand with rigor and discipline that they're truly unique. So next we're going to go into our core focus. So 2 hemispheres, our purpose, our cause, our passion, and our niche, just for you. So when we think about the first question, what is our passion? What is our purpose? What is our cause? To me, a passion, and the first decision that you're going to make, again, creating a competitive advantage, is which of the 3 words am I going to use? Passion, purpose, cause. The way I look at this is passion, that's sort of like level 1. You're really passionate about it yourself. It gives you energy. You don't really care about too much. You just want to do that thing. You're just really passionate about it. And then I think level 2 is purpose, where it's externally facing, you have a purpose, it's driving you forward, and it doesn't really go beyond your borders. And I think level 3 is cause. In EOS Worldwide, we have a purpose, and maybe we're moving towards a cause, because it's spreading well beyond the borders of our business, and we're making a dent in the universe. And so we got to think about that. What word are we going to choose? Purpose, cause, or passion? And I think they just have another gear to it. And if you think about your competition, what are they passionate about? What's their cause? Because you might be moving the same ball forward, in which case maybe you are collaborators more than your competitors. And so we want you to be thinking about playing an infinite game instead of a finite game. And the difference is a finite game is you're just playing to win what's in front of you right now. And you got to do that to a certain extent. But infinite games are being played to continue playing. So you're looking out 100 years, 1,000 years, and you're looking at making a dent in the universe and just drives that energy forward. So when you think about that, that's step one. So then with your niche, we say the words, what is the one thing that you can do better than anyone else in the world? The one thing. And most people take that as a little bit of hyperbole, and maybe it is. But we're really saying, look, what is that thing that you are uniquely gifted for as an organization that is completely differentiated? And if you had to guess what the niche is for your competition, is it the same or is it a little bit different? So I want you to just be thinking about adding a little level of rigor to those answers, that it creates a differentiation for you in your marketplace, because that will help you grow and you'll just get there faster. So next we're going to talk about our marketing strategy, our 10-year target. I see two things up here. Now I know which one's which. So with the 10-year target, does it engage the entire company? Like if you have profit as your 10-year target, I'm not going to embarrass you and make you raise your hand right now. But if that's it, it doesn't engage your entire organization. It doesn't align the human energy and get you to a differentiated place. And so you got to choose something that involves everyone in your organization. 50 out of 50 people, they see it and they want it. Of course, there's structures where profit would make sense and it'd be a lot of fun for everyone to get there. But most of the time, your teams are seeing that. Your companies are seeing profit as your 10-year target, and it doesn't do anything. It doesn't move the cause forward. So there's a little bit of an exercise, and I apologize for its kind of violence, but it gets you thinking about that 10-year target. Right? So whatever you have at your 10-year target, just imagine someone comes up to you and says, hey, do or die, you've got to get this thing done right now. And your brain does amazing things. It operates at 23 teraflops per second, which is really fast, and I don't know if that's true. But you go really fast. All of a sudden, your brain does all the work to say, I know exactly how I would get there in 90 days, which probably says that your 10-year target is a little bit too small. It's a little bit too small, it's a little bit too easy, because you're just going to end up working harder doing the same thing over a long period of time, as opposed to having to change the way you operate in a more strategic manner. So then we move to our marketing strategy. Our marketing strategy. The first thing we do is we decide who our target market is, the list, the psychographic, geographic, demographic. And that's pretty straightforward. But then we go into the three uniques. What are the three things that, when taken in combination, eliminates all of our competition? And again, we're saying these words, but in my experience, most people don't really realize what it is that we're saying. We're talking about deep strategy that will help your company grow. And so as you think about these three uniques, we make the statement that if you take 10 of your competitors, line them all up, and maybe 8 of them do one of these things, and maybe 5 of them does 2 of these things, but not a single one of the 10 does all 3. Well, my question for you is, have you done the work to determine who your 10 biggest competitors really are? What are their 3 uniques? Are you truly differentiated in the marketplace? Does your proven process create a unique and differentiated experience where they can't get that process anywhere else? What is your guarantee? What is the thing that you can offer them that proactively reduces the risk of them working with you? And so a little tip that I have for you, because we have AI now, and you can do some deep research. So do a little deep research prompt and say, hey, who are my 10 biggest competitors? This is the market that I am in, and get the list. And then say, hey, these are the 3 uniques that I have. What are the 3 uniques of those 10 competitors? And how am I unique and different? And you'll be amazed at the results that you get from that deep research. And you'll either confirm the 3 uniques that you have, or you'll get some ideas on how to up-level, upskill the way you think about your 3 uniques and the way you go to market. So then that takes us to the 3-year picture. And again, all human energy going in a singular direction. We want to make sure that where we end up is a place we want to be. And so that comes out in your 3-year picture. Your, of course, revenue and profit and measurables. And then we do those 5 to 15 bullet points. Go through there and make sure that those 5 to 15 bullet points set you up to be going towards the blue oceans instead of the red oceans. Because if you're walking the halls and everyone's already been there and it's really, really crowded, you're not going to grow your company. You'll have a nice alignment, you'll be doing the thing, but are you really getting what you want from your business? So of course, then we're taking that and breaking it down into our 1-year plan. We're taking that 1-year plan and putting it into our rocks and then our issues list. So as I move to conclude here, few last things. So going back to Khan here, he created this persona. He created a strategy about his identity and all those different types of things to set him and the family up for success. They had this vision, they had traction, but at some point along the way, the circus, that kind of performance stopped. It stopped working because no one was really interested. And so once the performance ended and he retired, not only did he lose vision and purpose, so did the entire family. My grandfather, he ended up spending the last 17 years of his life as homeless. And he would drink himself to sleep every night, and we would go visit him under a bridge. Because he didn't change his niche. He didn't have any other skill, and it was no longer relevant. It was no longer necessary. And so my encouragement to you, and we think about that niche, it changes over time. Your purpose, your cause, your passion doesn't, but your niche does. And so as you think about that core focus, every quarterly when you come into that session room with your implementer and you're just doing the VTO review, I've seen so many times we just get complacent about it. We just roll over it. Yeah, yep, all good, yep, all good. But have you taken the time to really dig deep into that? Because it can be a matter of life or death. So that is your challenge. Are we using our VTO to create a competitive advantage? Is it your strategic weapon, or is it just another document gathering dust? So that is my show. What we're going to do is a little bit of Q&A. So up there is, you can follow me on LinkedIn. You can reach out to me for any questions you have. You can even send me your VTO. I won't care. You wouldn't be alone. So I think we have some microphones up for any and all questions about EOS Worldwide. Anything is fair game. So don't be bashful. Otherwise, we'll just get tea a little faster, I guess.
Just come up the front if you have a question.
Yeah. Yeah, you can come on up. There's microphones here and here. Yeah.
Thanks, that was great. Can you help me understand some differences between the marketing 3 uniques and the values?
Yeah.
As we went through our process, we've got some great values. The marketing, to me, that they could be the same. Could you just talk to that a little bit?
Sure. So when you think about your 3 uniques, so I'll use EOS Worldwide's 3 uniques as the example here. So for us, it is vision, traction, and healthy. The way in which we help a client achieve vision, gain discipline with traction, and create really healthy, cohesive, and functional teams. So it's very tangible in the value creation and what the customer gets. Right? So when you think about your 3 uniques, it should be a tangible deliverable. Right? Then when taken in combination, no one else is delivering that value in that same way. Make sense? Where obviously the core values is more about culture and the feel of the people and who you want to be spending your time with and how they think and what they value.
Hey Mark, thanks a lot. That was fantastic. Just to give you some context, I'm a technical recruiter. 60% of my clients are on EOS.
Nice.
And yeah, it's an amazing platform, by the way. I'm drinking the Kool-Aid.
Yeah.
I honestly really believe that this is an empowering organization, and I want to support our clients to do the best. you can't get your vision or your traction if you don't have the right people on board.
Yep.
And can you please share with us your 3 go-to questions when you're talking to potential hires to align them with your vision, traction, and your purpose?
Yeah. So the first thing that you do is your core values speech. All right. So we call it the scare 'em away speech. And so when you give that speech passionately, like you just want to really end it with, if you aren't this, if you don't reek of these core values, you simply are not going to be having any fun. We're going to tick you off. You're going to tick us off. It's just not going to work. And so if you go do that first in terms of recruiting and making sure that you've got the steps in that process, that does a tremendous amount of the heavy lifting. And depending on some questions around how do they share the core values, I think that if you share those core values, you've done the speech and they're still here, you're always taking a little bit of a risk. And I think that's okay. You're never going to be 100% perfect on core values alignment during those interview processes. So core values speech. Another thing a lot of clients do is core values cards. So they will bring someone in, and it's a list of core values. No, all kinds of words, right? So that are interrelated. And they just have the prospect flip over the cards that resonate most with them. And so that person is really identifying what their core values are lifetime. And so that is one way that we see just a tremendous amount of value in that. So speech, so I don't really have 3, but I think those 2, aside from conversation and just digging deep in that. So hopefully I understood the question and gave the right response. Yeah, sure.
Hi, hello. So we're very new in terms of looking at putting EOS into our business. We got acquired about 2 years ago by a visionary and entrepreneur, so he's coming with a very different thinking to what we had before. What are some of those things that you've done that really embedded, not just the quarterly briefing sessions, for example, but how else did you really embed the EOS process for you, your vision, your core values, everything else to kind of bring people on a journey? Because we've got a mix of staff who's been there a really long time and then some who's kind of really new.
Yeah. And are you working with an implementer following the process?
We will be now. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, very soon. Yeah.
Yeah. So you're going to go through a process, and it's all going to start with the leadership team. As Gino wrote, his aha after 2,000 sessions was that it really just all comes down to the leadership team. That's the difference between companies that get what they want and those that don't. So you're going to go through that process. You're going to build the leadership team. And cracks in the leadership team look like canyons to the rest of the business. So if you as a team aren't 100% on the same page with the VTO, with your all 8 questions, no cracks. You got to be a solid, high-performing team. Because as I always say, when your teams below the leadership team are looking at all your behaviors, you are under a microscope. And anything that you do, they do times 10 or maybe times 100. So you got to build that leadership team to be really, really strong, fully bought in. And then you work your way down to the next level of the business, one team at a time, one level at a time, only when they're ready. And so you just start that process slowly. And mid-managers are really important with that because then they're going to have to do the same thing. And so it's see one, do one, teach one. See one, do one, teach one over and over and over again. And then you get all the tools throughout the entire organization rolled out. So I'm excited for your journey and what you're about to embark on.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you, Mark. I think you managed to convince us that we can use our core values as competitive advantage and not
Yes,
a
for
strategic
sure.
tool. So that's why all the questions are related to this. My question is, what is the best way to set the core values of an organization? When we started the business, it was set up by the founders, but then in our business, we've been running business for 7 years. We've grown to 50 people now, and I kind of feel that the core values needs a refresh and they don't resonate to the team. So what is the best way? Is it bottom-top approach or coming from the senior leadership?
Yeah, so we follow the same process in every organization where we're just simply saying, okay, name 2 or 3 people, everyone on the leadership team names a few people. If we had 100 of them, we could rule the world. And then we name the names, and then we say, okay, well, what are the attributes of those people that we admire so much that if we had them, it would just be amazing. So you go through that same process, and then you get it down to 3 to 7 core values, and you tweak and hone, refine to get something that what you love. And since you already have core values, you might want to think about refreshing your core values speech. Because if you go through that process, you might identify pretty much the same thing of what you have, but it just needs a little bit of more energy. Take that core values speech, you're giving analogies, you're giving examples that are new and relevant to your team today. And that usually can just inject a whole new level of passion and life into those core values. Yeah.
G'day. Well spoken.
G'day.
I really appreciate the 7 times quarterly, 23 times, but I'm a little bit less patient in that regard.
No.
And my question to you is, in my business, we've done a pretty good job of fostering having our leaders on a daily basis, as regularly as possible, talk in meetings. We're big on training meetings, just about an hour every day. Our departments have meetings and training, and a core focus and topic in that is ensuring that all of our actions and our review on actions from previous days and our tasks and objectives are all working toward our broader why and vision. And my question is, can you expedite that process by doing it on a daily basis as much as possible?
I don't think so. I mean, really, you, and Kelly's going to talk a little bit about this later, but every human is moving through space and time, right? So even if they share your core values and they GWC the seat once, a week later, it could be totally different, right? Because we're human and we experience things and we think different things. And so you've got to hold the GWC, right person, right seat, over time. And so that's really why you can't expedite it, because everyone is changing. You're changing. The way you use the words are a little bit different. And I've never seen a way that you can just stop leading and managing that all of a sudden they get it and don't have to do it again. So even if it's 7 times to hear it for the first time, you got to keep going forever. It is a never-ending journey until you have no journey left.
I guess just to help you understand my point a little bit more, the ongoing nature of it is...
exhausting?
No, it's the best part about it, I would say.
Okay, good.
But more so what I'm saying in terms of expediting is not saying that there's an end to it, because the ongoing nature of reinforcing your vision and why is what drives you and the team to understand what they're working toward. But my point is, can you get people to the point where they believe in what you're saying faster by more regularly emphasizing the point?
Yeah. If they share your core values and they GWC the seat, they tend to get it a lot faster. Because part of GWC, yes, it's the 5 bullet points in the seat, but it's also they've got to GWC the VTO. They have to get it. They have to want it. And they have to have the capacity to help you get there. And if they don't, it's probably not going to last for very long. So I would just say I would test, are they truly right person, right seat? Are they in the right organization? Are you clear in your communication and consistent with it? And that's pretty much as fast as you can go. RPRS will be a lot faster than not. And we see this in our business. There's some people who just don't get it. And you can explain yourself 1,000 times, 50 times a day, and it just doesn't connect. The synapses of their brain are misfiring. It just won't work. So it's sort of a non-answer answer other than just keep doing it, make sure you have RPRS, and you can't really go faster.
Appreciate that.
Yeah.
Thanks, mate.
Thank you. What do you recommend for businesses who have different teams that operate in quite disparate marketplaces, and how to manage, both recruiting and different clientele within the same organization and keeping the same vision and rocks and goals?
So I guess my question would be, is it really one business or is it multiple?
One business, yeah.
Okay. And so sometimes the answer is it probably isn't one business if the core values are different or the culture is different across different areas and locations. But if you really have a common set of core values, you have a common purpose, cause, passion, or niche, and it's really the same process. When you're dispersed, it just takes a little bit more effort and energy. At EOS Worldwide, we're a virtual company. We are spread out all over the place. And so we do mid-quarter calls to keep everyone on the same page. We, of course, do our level 10s. And we're just like any other entrepreneurial business running on EOS. So I would dig into, is it really, really one business? Because we've seen this lots of times where they actually have different business units that have different cultures through acquisitions and things like that. And so sometimes the answer is you got to run them as separate businesses if they can't mix. So it really just depends.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Hey, Mark.
Hey.
I love that you learned that an Americano is an upside down long black.
Yes. Hey.
As a barista, I would have made that for you.
Right. The funniest part was she just kept saying no. I'm like, what's wrong?
Where's that service?
She's messing with me totally.
One of the things that piqued my attention was the fact you said that you keep your core focus, you keep your core values, your niche might need to adapt and might need to evolve.
Yes.
And so what I'm curious around is, could you help me understand maybe what markers you might see there? Is it something where you might be lacking innovation? Or is it driven by where the market is going? How do you know when you need to evolve your niche?
To me, one of the biggest indicators is when your margins start to erode, where you start to lose pricing power in your market, where you're competing, and you're competing not on differentiation, but you're competing on price. And you start to no longer see white space in front of you, and the macro market just doesn't really value what it is that you're doing. So that's really indicator number one. And of course, the whole process there is that you want to try to identify that as fast as you can. And the best way I know, and this is kind of a good segue, to the issues book. So that's coming out in April of 26.
Nice plug.
Yeah, you like that? Super smooth. And so when we think about your leadership team's ability to IDS really, really well, that allows you to see sooner and act faster. Because there's some issues that are coming up on your level 10 issues list that are macro market issues that you might start to think about our niche is not what it used to be. And we've got new entrants into that market. Are we truly differentiated? Are we really able to win? So you might see that in decrease in revenue. You might see some pricing. What business are you in?
The coffee you had outside.
Oh, okay. Yeah, thanks. So obviously that is a relatively commoditized experience, but experience could be the thing. I historically, people are going to be drinking coffee forever, but what's your uniqueness, right? So what's making you different in the marketplace? And obviously coming here and serving for us is unique. We don't have that in the US usually. But that's the way I'd be thinking about it. How are we IDSing? What are on our issues list are the things that are macro in nature, that are just macroeconomic forces that are out of our control? They're symptoms. What's the root? Sometimes it's the niche.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Hi, Mark. So my company is very new with EOS.
Yeah.
I think I'm going to be an integrator. I'm learning that terminology.
I guess you'll find out.
Our CEO discovered EOS a couple of months ago, and we've started learning and developing the platform. My question for you is about self-implementing versus using an implementer.
Yeah.
It was a really interesting show of hands earlier. I think broadly, as I wrote down, 50% of people are using
50,
an implementer. Yeah. We're probably in that 25% or so that are trying to do it ourselves.
Yeah.
Now, we're a management consulting firm, so we love to think we can consult ourselves, but I think we can probably get a bit over optimistic on that. But equally, we have budget challenge. So it's like, okay, let's do this ourselves. But I wonder what call outs, what risks, and what advice you'd have for companies that are going down the self-implementation path to
Sure,
make sure
sure.
it's successful.
Self-implementing is just a great way to start. I personally, on my EOS journey, began self-implementing in my companies. As Dean said, I sort of caught this entrepreneurial bug and habit almost, if you will. So I had these 9 companies and I was like, okay, well, I'm just gonna implement myself. And really quickly, my analogy is sort of like doctor heal thyself. And I would go into those quarterlies with my leadership team and we'd start going through the process because I was ready to delegate off and let them run those businesses with my input, yes, but not with me having to be there every day. And the thing that happened was they just said, hey, Mark, you own the company. Can you just tell us what to do? Like, no, this is not the point. I want to be at the table participating equally, and you own this vision. You buy into this, not me telling you what to do. So that was my personal indicator of I didn't even know an implementer exists at that time. So I found out later, obviously. So I hired an implementer, started implementing, became an implementer at the same time, but that was my indicator. So the biggest difference you will see self-implementing versus implementing with an implementer is that you got this objective point of view. They're kind of dead inside. What I mean by that is they have no emotion tied to what it is that you're experiencing, right? And because they have no emotion tied to what's going on with that leadership team, they will say things that you're like, I can't believe they just said that, but I'm thankful and grateful for it. So you just miss that objective point of view, which you, I'm sure, experience with your clients in management consulting, is that you just have this outsider point of view that is really useful. But enjoy the journey. We love self-implementation. It's about a 10-to-1 ratio out in the world between self-implementers, and then they kind of move down and they realize, ooh, I could use some help. So that's the way it goes usually. So hopefully that's helpful. Yeah.
Hey, Mark. Just 2 quick questions. Number one, in terms of your SWOT, your VTO,
yeah,
is that something that you should be making visible to your team so that they have an understanding of where a lot of the decisions came in making your VTO?
Yeah.
The second question is just simply, in your business, you guys would have also had to identify your perfect customer profile.
Mm-hmm.
I suppose the question is there a point at which EOS doesn't scale?
I haven't found that yet. So it takes, there's a couple commitments that need to be made. So I'll answer the scaling question first. So for me, working with clients, my biggest client was 4.7 billion in revenue, 8,500 employees. And it took 3 years to roll out to the front lines of that business in the warehouse and forklift drivers. So it took a long time. And that organization continues to grow today. It's publicly traded. And so it's not a matter of scale, it's a matter of the discipline around eliminating bureaucracy, eliminating politics inside of that organization, where if your core values get out of alignment and they get out of control, you see, and the desire for complexity starts to creep in, that's where EOS doesn't really shine because we're about open, honest, direct, simple. And if you have an organization that has no desire for that, then EOS starts to not work because you're not implementing EOS anymore. It's something, modified version of that. And so to answer your question around the SWOT, so every annual, the EOS Worldwide leadership team, we do a SWOT analysis. And we then identify the issues that we want to tackle in the year and in the quarter. And so we don't publish that, but if someone asked for it, we do give it to them if they would ask, but it's probably not really exciting for anybody.
Fair enough.
It all comes out, like the stuff that we decide that matters ends up on the VTO.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Hi, Mark.
Hi.
One of the questions that you posed before is, what is the one thing that you do better than anyone else in the world?
Yeah.
This is a question I struggle with. Can you talk through any stories of other people who've had challenges with that, and
Sure.
how did they kind of solve that?
Yeah. So working with a construction client, and in the U.S. in New Jersey. And if you're familiar with the state of New Jersey, it's on the East Coast, and it's very, very unionized. And they're a construction company, they're pipe fitters, and they're competing on 2% margins at most. And so when they had their niche, they said, well, we do pipe fitting and mechanical construction. Okay, well, so does everybody else. So it took a little while for them to determine what's the differentiator. What could they do that is different that no one else is doing? And so what they did was they actually amplified the fact that they were a union-based business. And so what their niche ended up to be is vision-driven union construction. So they got really specific with it. And so what they did was they took their VTO to the union hall, and they presented their VTO to the union and said, we are going to grow together. And so that was their total unique differentiator, is because what happened? They got all the labor to come work for them, and all their competitors couldn't get any. And so that would be an example of they just realized what is our uniqueness here, and it was that. There's lots of different examples where when you, if you can get one word, great. But many times you might have to add a twist to what that thing is that is unique to you, that you're uniquely positioned to deliver. Okay? Yeah?
Hey, Mark, wondering if you could unpack a bit more what makes up a great 10-year target, what other aspects, obviously apart from revenue and profit that we've talked about, that may not be inspiring to all levels of staff across the organisation? And is there any examples that you could give of genuinely inspiring BHAGs that you've seen out there?
There's a lot of them, but I mean, can I give you a framework to think about it? Is when you take that core focus, purpose, cause, passion, niche, and I'll use EOS Worldwide as the example. So for us is helping entrepreneurs live their EOS life. And the way we take our 10-year target, which is in 2035, we'll have 100,000 companies running on EOS. So the way to think about this is that if you're passionate about something, your core focus, how could we measure the output of our core focus? How could we quantify the impact that we're trying to make? And so if you do that, that almost always involves everybody. So that's the first way that I would think about that. We've had clients think about, they wanted to make enough money that they could take the entire organization on a cruise, on a Caribbean cruise. And so that was their 10-year target. In 10 years, we're gonna have 100 employees and we're gonna go for a week to the Caribbean on a cruise. And so it involves everybody. And then it is a profit goal, but it's one that involves everyone. They're basically committing that they're gonna give profit back to the team. So that's one example. Another example is that they wanted to purchase a house for basically the 5% of their team, right? Because they're a younger group, a younger organization. They weren't making enough money to buy their own house. And so they said, okay, we're gonna take our profits and we're gonna go buy a house for the bottom 5% of our team once they are here with us for a year. And so that one involved everyone, and they were helping and giving in that way. So that's kind of the best way to think about it, though, is just a measurement of your core focus, because that's what lights you up and that's what should engage everybody. Yep. All right.
Yeah, hi, Mark. We're a concrete contracting business. Been using EOS for 3 years. We're trying to solve the problem of cascading our vision down to our workforce. We've got a large workforce in a large geographic location. And the way we're trying to do this is we've used a sort of SketchUp story, put our VTO into that, and created a video of it. And we want to push that out to our workforce. The question I've got is, I'm struggling with the concept of sharing a VTO in what can be easily shared publicly to our competitors versus trying to keep it close and just within the business. What are your experiences about doing that? sharing your VTO with your competitors?
It's a good question, and I would just say that when you've got that nailed and you've created a moat around your VTO, you should have all the confidence in the world of people trying to replicate what you're building, but they just don't have the ability to do it. So there's a great analogy. It's called the Mongolian plumbing. So it's a story of World War II, post-World War II. The Russians sent the Mongolians into Berlin. And they were used to being in grass huts. And so what they would do is they would go into these houses in Germany and they would see the faucets and running water and everything. And so they would turn it on and they were just amazed by the water coming out of these faucets. And so what they would do is they would rip out all the fixtures and they put them in a big cart and they took them back to Mongolia. They pushed them in the side of the hut, turned, no water came out. And they're like, what's going on here? Like, this doesn't, what's happening? And so the point is that they can steal your fixtures, but they can't take the plumbing. And so if you're answering these 8 questions in a rigorous, disciplined manner, they're not going to be able, they might take the fixtures, but they're not going to be able to take the plumbing. You'll have a differentiated culture that is baked in to who you are, which is creating that differentiation. You have a passion that you're striving for that doesn't light them up the way it lights you up. And so they'll take the fixtures, but they can't take the plumbing. Yeah? All right. I think that is it. No more questions? No more final burning questions? All right. Thank you very much.
Thanks, Mark. Good job.